On today's Locked On NBA Game Night, in overtime in Boston, Cleveland runs away from Minnesota. The Rockets take care of business, and there's some really big-time drama happening in Beantown. We're going to tell you all about it.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on Locked On NBA Game Night, recapping everything that happened across the association on Saturday night. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets. We're here to recap what was a really fun Saturday night in the NBA, Jackson.
Oh, absolutely. I also want the record to reflect that if the Poole party had been successful in his revenge game in the Bay Area, we would have led off with that game. I just want that to be known, like, full stop here from the start of the show.
Yeah, and I can confirm Jackson was texting me during that game advocating for the Wizards and Warriors to be in the A block. It got vetoed because there's some trouble brewing in Boston, at least locally, Jackson. Let's take it out to the Garden and see what Locked On Celtics host John Corrales thought of the Celtics' loss to Atlanta.
When I say the Celtics gave this away, I mean, they literally gave this game away to the Atlanta Hawks. Celtics are up 3, closing seconds of this game. They had the ball. Drew Holiday gets a full court pass from Jayson Tatum up 3 on the baseline. He had an option to take the layup and put the Celtics up 5 and kind of put this game out of reach, or to hold the ball and get fouled and take free throws to put the game out of reach. Instead, he tried to play the clock game and pass it to Jaylen Brown, and it went out of bounds. Just one of the many inexplicable decisions, a foul, an intentional foul on Trae Young when the Celtics were only up 2. I think he thought they were up 3. So decision-making for the Celtics in this was awful. They got less than stellar late-game play from Jayson Tatum, from Jaylen Brown, and a day after an encouraging win over the Orlando Magic, the Celtics had a win in their hands, and they absolutely botched it, blew it, and the bad feelings are back in Boston. So this was not a good one. They got to try to redeem themselves on a West Coast trip.
Oh, bring him back in. Mike.
There we go. Jackson, they absolutely gave this game away. There were bad feelings in Boston, as John Corrales said. And we've worked with John for a while now. And anytime that my opinion aligns with John Corrales, I get a little bit of an ego boost. Like, okay, I'm on the right track. And that's exactly what I felt watching this game. Obviously, I didn't have the same bad feelings. I know locally, like, that all of these games matter. To me, it just felt like not only did Boston give it away, they just didn't care. Like, they just had no sense of urgency. They had no sense of the effort required to take down a very fun Hawks team, a very good Hawks team in that Eastern Conference. And I think that this is part of a championship hangover, to where you're kind of in this weird middle ground of how much do you continue to give Boston a pass because you just know that they're talented, you know that they're capable of winning, you know that they're kind of coasting, versus how much is this, hey, this is a brand new team, this is a brand new season, what you did last year doesn't really matter, and these things stack up. So, like, where do you fall in that scale for Boston?
Yeah, I honestly, I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Now, I will say, look, local reporters, media members who are covering these teams in person, who are there, getting into the nitty gritty, the day to day, they're going to have a better pulse on what's going on with those teams than we will as outsiders looking in. But as an outsider looking in, I don't know how worried you really should be, right? Because this is still a Boston Celtics team that is maybe not quite head and shoulders above all the other competition in the NBA, right? Maybe, the Cavs have kind of, seemingly on paper kind of closed the gap. OKC looks like the behemoth in the Western Conference, and they look like they're going to be the team to make it out of the West and be the true contending team coming out of that side of the bracket. So, I mean, but look, you look at the outcome of this game, right? Tatum, 7 of 21 shooting, really rough night. Jaylen Brown, 24 points, but it took 27 shots for him to get there, just 9 of 27 on the evening. Again, all those late game, horrible decisions from Drew Holiday. They're playing with no Al Horford, no Kristaps Porzingis. Like, how much do you really want to overreact to this kind of a game? Like, yes, the vibes are kind of rough right now. Yes, this is a game that you can point to and basically be like, yeah, the Celtics should have won this game. They were in control of this game. They made some dumb, boneheaded decisions down the stretch, but I don't think that's the kind of game that you overreact to, right? If the body language starts to get bad, if guys start blaming each other, if there starts to become tension in the locker room, then it becomes a little bit of an issue. But I think this Celtics team is still so far and away better than the competition that there's no reason for them to really worry about anything yet at this point. Too early for the 5-alarm fire bells.
Yeah, I would not worry if I was Boston. I get it that, like, watching this team day to day, it all just kind of stacks upon itself like these last couple of weeks. But in reality, if you canvass the 30 teams in the NBA, how many of them would have anyone above Boston of teams you do not want to play when the games are in the postseason on your path to a potential championship? From the Thunder to the Cavs to everybody, nobody wants to play this Boston Celtics team. And to me, that's the real litmus test of what this season still can be for Boston. I just think that they got out executed, but also just got out, efforted by a more desperate Atlanta Hawks team. This game meant a lot more to Atlanta, and they're going to have their fun on Twitter, where they're trolling Boston on social media right now, saying this game was not an anomaly on Twitter, as a shout out to the Jayson Tatum new nickname. But Trae Young, 28 points in the Garden. Dyson Daniels was awesome in this game. Only missed 3 shots all night for 23 points with a steal, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds. Jalen Johnson, had 14 and 13. I just thought that this was a hat tip to the Hawks and a blip for Boston.
Yeah, look, first off, give a lot of credit to the Atlanta Hawks, the giant slaying Atlanta Hawks right now. I believe 6-1 now on the season against the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. So 2 wins each against the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Cavs. Unbelievable, right? Let's get the Hawks some real competition, right? Like the Wizards or the Portland Trailblazers or some team that can actually handle this Atlanta squad. Also, you highlighted the Hawks' big 3, right? And they were sensational in this game. I want to give a shout out to Onyeka Okongwu, man. He was amazing in this game off the bench for the Hawks. 19 points, 13 rebounds, had a couple assists, had 4 block shots, had that huge block late against Jaylen Brown, had this offensive rebound that was clutch at the end of this game. Just really making his impact felt. Had a couple hustle plays, falling out of bounds, saving passes back in bounds to other players. Just a really great all-around game from him.
Yeah, he was really stellar for them, and the Hawks do deserve a lot of credit for this win. But now we head out to Cleveland, where Cleveland and Detroit, Cleveland and Minnesota got together in Minnesota, where Cleveland ran away at the end of it from this game.
Cleveland Cavaliers bounced back from their loss against Oklahoma City earlier this week with a 124-117 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves to close out their 3-game road trip on Saturday night. Donovan Mitchell had 36 points. Darius Garland had 29 points. I thought both of those guards were fantastic in the win for Cleveland. But the story for this game for me is how the Cavs defended in the third quarter in particular. Cavs defense has been bad as of late. It has not been a championship caliber defense. Well, in the third quarter, they did a great job against Minnesota's offense, holding them to just 19 points. And that really was, to me, the story of this game. They won a avalanche. End of the third, start of the fourth. That changed the game for the better. Now they'll come home, take on the Phoenix Suns on Monday, and look to continue to build upon Saturday night's winning performance.
So as Locked On Cavs host Danny Cunningham said there, Cleveland did a great job in that third quarter, did a great job in the second half, really turning the tide of this game, because we were trying to line out who was going to be structured where in the show. And at the time, this was a really fun basketball game. In the midst of this game, you had 10 lead changes, 6 ties. Minnesota had an 11-point lead in the first quarter, and you knew Cleveland would come back, just to what extent. And they came back in a big way, at one point growing a 20-point lead in that fourth quarter to get a big road win and bounce back from a loss against Oklahoma City in their last game out. I think that this just shows you what Cleveland is capable of. The Cavalanche is a real thing. I don't think it's just a fun nickname, because you look at how they can just turn it on. This was a 2-point game with 1:41 left in the third, and in just 3 minutes and 42 seconds, they were up by 20 points. That's insane for what this Cavs team can do to teams.
Yeah, 8-0 run to close the third quarter, started the fourth quarter with another 8-0 run, and then boom, 20-point deficit right there. Look, this is a Cavs team that almost like against opposing teams, it's almost like a war of attrition, where just even against good teams, you almost expect a team to have like a quarter or even half of a quarter where, it's the NBA is a game of runs, right? Basketball is a game of runs. Opposing teams get hot, get cold for little stretches, whatever. You'll make some mistakes. And it feels like this Cavs team just doesn't have those lapses, right? Where they just keep the pedal to the metal over the course of an entire 48-minute game. And they started a little rough in this game, right? They were struggled out of the gate. This was a team that looked like they were missing their two key players, Evan Mobley, no Isaac Okoro either. And that certainly kind of impacted them, right? They didn't have, I guess, the usual cohesion in their starting lineup, especially on the defensive side of things, some blown coverages early on, that kind of thing. But then as the game wore on, they got into rhythm. They had the Cavalanche happen at the end, and then that was that. And on the Wolves side of things, man, like Anthony Edwards just kind of disappearing for little stretches of this game. And that's been kind of one of the death knells of this Timberwolves offense is I feel like Ant at times just gets taken out of games way too easily. And I think a big part of like his evolution, it's weird to be talking about Ant because he's already like a superstar level player, but like the next big step for him is going to be finding ways to still be impactful without letting a team just completely take him out of it, like finding ways to just level up as a playmaker, or my big one is finding ways for him to play off ball, right? He's such a ball dominant player and he's incredible with the ball in his hands, but what more can he do to unlock his game by playing off ball and trying to make life easier for his teammates?
Yeah, and part of the reason he was so uncomfortable is because of this Cavs defense and because of a guy like Dean Wade, who I think defends stars like that at a very high level, especially when you have the Cavs anchors back there. And tonight he did a good job, all things considered, on one of the best scorers in the league. But Cleveland gets a big win to add to their high resume. Coming up, we're going to tell you about the Suns outlasting the Pistons in breakfast ball. And we've got the 76ers playing, the Rockets, the Wizards. It's a lot coming up on today's show. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment. Receive 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privilege of the high privilege is no longer exclusive with Robinhood Gold. Your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold to save up to 3% boost on your annual IRA contributions. Sign up today at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year. For the first match, must keep funds in the IRA account for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average saving accounts interest rate claims is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, recapping everything from Saturday night in Jackson this afternoon. It got started with a very fun basketball game. I mean, Kevin Durant scored 30 points in the second half to beat Detroit 125-121 this afternoon. Bad day in Detroit as the Lions and Pistons go down. Kevin Durant also from DC, so to DC's own, if you will, with KD going for 36 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. I thought Ryan Dunn really tied things together in this game. Only 12 points, but defensively, I thought he competed really hard, as he always does, to give them a boost. And then you had, at the end of the day, you have Durant and Booker, who went and got you a bucket at will. Booker had 35 in his own right on 50% shooting from the floor. This was a game that the Suns, I think, really needed. Every win they really need in this Western Conference with how their season has gone to this point. And they're 1-0 in the Nick Richards era, where he only missed 1 shot and scored 21 points with 11 rebounds. What did you think of the semi-new look Suns?
So first off, the real question is, are they going to just leave Bradley Beal in Detroit? Like, did he get on the team flight back, or is he getting all decked out in his new Pistons wear? No, look, first off, we're going to talk about the Pistons side of things here in just a moment. But on the Suns side, first off, how many players that you can think of, Rylan, can start 1 of 9 in a basketball game and then finish with 36 points? Like, that's what KD did, right? He really struggled right out of the gate in this game, was had a pretty terrible first half, all things considered, and then completely turned it on in the second half. Had some ridiculous shot making down the stretch to put this Pistons team away. They just had no answer for him. Not that there's really any answer out there for Kevin Durant when he decides that he's going to turn it on in a game like this. For the new look Suns, Nick Richards, obviously a huge game, right? First game, in Phoenix, and he delivered on what the Suns hoped he would bring, right? He's an athletic, high-energy big man. He plays physical. He was a team best plus 22 in his 29 minutes. Absolutely impactful. And it felt like it. Every minute that he was out there, you could feel like, oh, wow, okay, this is a presence that this Suns team has desperately been missing this season. My holdup with Nick Richards, and this was also my holdup when they first made the trade. It was like, Phoenix Suns need something. We're going to go get Nick Richards, right? And I was like, what? Okay. Nick Richards has had some really strong games, right? He was having a good season up to this point before getting traded, but there's a reason that he's been a backup for his career, right? He's been kind of wildly inconsistent at times. He'll have like one or two really good games, and then he'll have a couple games where he just or some stretches in games where he'll make some really bad plays or questionable defensive fouls and just things like that, or he'll suddenly forget how to handle a basketball and start dropping passes left, right, and center. So this was like the top end version of Nick Richards, right? And this is the version that the Suns hope that they can get on a nightly basis. And honestly, playing next to guys like KD, like Devin Booker, like Bradley Beal, if he's ever back, playing for the Suns, or TBD on that whole saga, maybe Jimmy Butler down the line, who knows? Playing next to star level players always makes your life easier. And on paper, there's a reason that like these athletic bigs who can play above the rim and just, make their living on hustles and rebounds and second chance points. There's a reason these guys often thrive next to star players. They get the easiest opportunities of their entire career. So I need a little bit bigger sample size to be bought in on the Nick Richards era of Suns basketball, but it's off to a pretty good start.
That's totally fair, but we can go out to Indiana where it's getting late early for the 76ers.
That's a win for the Pacers right on this floor of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Tony East here with Locked On Pacers, where the Pacers just beat the 76ers, double-digit win. Didn't really feel like it, though. Not a great performance from the Pacers today. They're integrating Aaron Nesmith back from an injury. He's been playing well himself, but they just have a new rotation. Their offense wasn't really flowing today. They didn't shoot it well. They had too many turnovers, but they won because they're a better defensive team now than they've ever been in this era of the Pacers. Last 10, 12 games or so, they've been a top 10 defense. They've beaten some good teams along the way. Tyrese Maxey scored 44 on this court early this season, barely cracked 30 today. I mean, just a really mature performance on the defensive end from the Pacers, and they were able to overcome some of their struggles offensively because of that. Weird to say that about the Pacers, but it's their reality. They can stop teams now, and they can win that way, and they're 8-1. In January, 24-19, and now headed to Paris, a week in the middle of the season over in Europe to play the Spurs. Well, much more on all this on Locked On Pacers.
So as Tony points out, this was a similar game that the Sixers have been playing all week, really. I mean, you go back to that Oklahoma City game where they kept it competitive. They covered the spread, but they ultimately were just clearly far and away the worst team on the floor. And oftentimes in the NBA, talent will take over. Talent will get you a win. And in this game, they only had Maxey. I mean, it's George sitting out. Even Reggie Jackson wasn't there for what that's worth. And you also saw, of course, Joel Embiid be out, as well as Jared McCain was out for the season. So the Sixers lose again. And my question to you, Jackson, is like, when does this turn from, okay, this is still a disastrous season, but they're in the Eastern Conference, they have time, like this is not a good conference. When does it turn from that to, okay, yeah, they're in deep trouble that they can't get out of?
I mean, I think we're pretty much like almost in the 11th hour of making that decision, right? Because this is a year where if the 76ers decide to look, we're halfway through the season, right? They're 15-25, 40 games through the season. And at this point, you've basically had an unhealthy roster all year long. You're asking Tyrese Maxey to do way too much on a nightly basis. Tyrese Maxey is not a first option guy. He is an ideal like second, third option guy. He would be great playing off of Embiid and Paul George. That was the vision when they originally created this big three, and we've yet to really see that at all so far this season. I think at some point you really do have to start like heavily considering what would it look like if you just pulled the plug on this season, right? Just rest Embiid, rest PG, make sure they are 100% healthy, right? Shut everybody down, shut down Maxey so that he doesn't get hurt, and just bottom out, right? Go full, like, bring back the process era Sixers for the back half of this season. And then I don't know if we have like a a Wemby, like the Wemby motto when you were tanking for Wemby or whatever, like whatever the one is that for
Capture
Cooper
the flag.
Capture the flag. There it is. I completely forgot. Look, Rockets aren't involved in the draft anymore. I don't pay attention to these.
The Thunder are, thanks to the Sixers.
There we go. So look, capture the flag in Philly if that's the case, right? If you can land a top 3, top 5 pick in this year's draft, you can either bring in another young stud to pair for the future with Tyrese Maxey, or you can, leverage that pick into additional support for this core big 3 if you still believe in it moving forward. But you're on the hook for Paul George for 4 years and $200+ million. So like you got to kind of believe in it. But this season feels like it's going to be a wrap for the 76ers. They're done for. They're toast.
And the scariest part is if the lottery balls do not bounce in their favor, the right. Thunder own their pick starting at pick number 7. So it could all be for naught at the end of the day. Coming up, though, 2 more games. Rockets taking care of Portland, and the pool party got spoiled. But first, I want to say right now, about our good friends over at Skims. When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give them a try. And let me tell you, it lives up to the hype, ladies and gentlemen. I've always, wanted to find the perfect fit, comfort, and style for myself in the underwear game, and Skims has changed the underwear game. Their men's line has something for everyone, from boxer briefs, which is my favorite, to classic briefs, all the designs with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I'm telling you, this is a underwear that does not lose its shape. It moves with you, and it's so comfortable. It's like you're not having anything on, frankly, with the lightweight material that they use. So make sure you go check them out today by shopping at Skims Men line at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey menu box, and then select our show in the drop-down menu box following that at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and at the Skims stores. Also want to tell you right now about our good friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate and has a variety of bets, keeping every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra entertainment to a fun playoff game in the NFL. FanDuel has you covered by visiting FanDuel.com to join today, and you can get started with $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's FanDuel.com. For right now, make the playoff season even more unforgettable with FanDuel. We've already seen upsets with the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You can go and see more on today's slate of games. But also, if you only like the NBA, no problem there. We like the NBA more than football. And so you can bet on the NBA, where the Thunder are 17.5-point favorites over the Brooklyn Nets. Go check them out today at FanDuel.com. Jackson. It's time to talk about your Houston Rockets, and I'll let you cook on the Rockets. From my vantage point, this was a TCB game, baby. Taking care of business. I was watching this game, and you can criticize the second quarter if you want to, but this is what good teams do, man. They go into Portland, and they really keep them at arm's distance for the majority of the game. They run away with it at the end, and that's kind of all she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Look, this was a game where, when you go up against one of those, bottom feeder teams in the NBA, oftentimes, you deal with, high energy players, guys who are still trying to cut their teeth in the NBA, prove that they belong in a rotation, or, trying to earn minutes on the roster, that kind of thing. And that's basically felt like what the Rockets have dealt with against the Blazers in this game. Early on, the Blazers had more energy than the Rockets. They were out hustling them. Rockets got off to a strong start in the first quarter and then faded pretty quickly. Portland went on a big run to kind of close things out, make things competitive. And then that second quarter was a little shaky. And then thankfully the Rockets kind of went on a decent close to the first half. And then they firmly took control in that third quarter, where the 2-man game between Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun has been blossoming as of late. We've seen flashes of it in their history together. This season, it really feels like it's leveled up to another degree. They had 26 of the Rockets' 36 points in that third quarter. Jalen Green's been on an absolute heater here in the month of January. We got post-All-Star break Jalen Green a little early this year, and that's a huge benefit for this Rockets team sitting at number 2 in the Western Conference. And yeah, it pretty much was just a team taking care of business, Rylan. I mean, look, the Blazers, you know, they were hustling, they were crashing the offensive glass, they were generating second and third chance opportunities, but that's about all that they were doing. And then when the Rockets really turned it on there in the third quarter, they had almost 4 different guys scoring 20 plus in this game. Jaylen with 26 in just 3 quarters of run, Sengun with 23 points, DB Dillon Brooks. This was a nice little wake up game for him because he's had one hell of a season, and then he got to January and it's like he forgot how to play basketball consistently. He's had a really rough 8 or 9 games. His shooting percentages have been in the tank, and so this was a nice little I don't want to call it a breakout performance, but like a return to form performance for Dillon Brooks. 22 points, only on 9 of 18 shooting. You'd like that to be a little bit better, but he was hitting like the Kobe Bryant-esque fadeaways with hands in his face and everything in this game. No answer for him throughout this one. And then Tari Eason, a couple games back in the Rockets rotation after missing 13 straight games with the leg soreness, kind of some residual pain from the same thing that kept him sidelined for 75% of the year last season. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, kind of filling in that role that usually is occupied by Amin Thompson for this Rockets team, that energy spark plug kind of off the bench, and also facilitating a little bit. Tari with some passes in this game that I was a little bit, honestly, not expecting from him. So kind of a new little wrinkle in development in Tari Eason's game, being able to facilitate for his teammates. He had a pair of back-to-back really nice dimes to Cam Whitmore and Alperen Sengun, both in transition, that led to some really strong dunks. So it was a fun game for the Rockets. And yeah, you're right, taking care of business, man.
Jackson, what was not fun for you was watching Jordan Poole go for 38 and not capture the revenge game. You were on the edge of your seat waiting for this to happen. Let's go out to Locked On Warriors and find out how they staved off the Jordan Poole game.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? This had the makings of a Jordan Poole revenge game. The former Warrior comes back to chase, puts up 38 points in the game today. In fact, the Wizards were doing something that they have not done a lot of this season. That's knocking down three-pointers. Final numbers, 22 of 45. That is 48% from deep, and it's the reason why the Warriors were even in this game. But when it came down to it, the Warriors, the Wizards had Poole going for 38. They had Kuzma going for 22. Not a ton of help aside from them and Bud Carrington. But the Warriors really had a balanced attack. 31 from Wiggins, 26 from Steph Curry, 20 from Dennis Schroeder. They also got points off the bench from Moses Moody with 13, Gary Payton with 10, Kevon Looney had 10. 6 Warriors in double figures. And the final numbers for Golden State, 46% from the floor. They shoot at 34% from deep. For the full conversation about the game, Matt Kolsky joins me on the Locked On Warriors post-game show. We are live, and we will see you soon.
Well, Jackson, you did not get your revenge game, but I will say, on top of Jordan Poole trying to best his former team, Bub Carrington really got me feeling things. 4 for 6 from 3, 17 points. I really like this young Wizards core, even though they're the worst record in the league. I like what Bub Carrington can do. I really like what Keyshawn George can do. And then I still believe in Sarr. I think that Sarr really needs someone to come in as a table setter and that can spoon feed him buckets. I don't think that you can maximize him with the current roster Washington has, but I still believe that this organization is trending in the right direction. And then this was a game that no matter how ugly it was, you'd rather win ugly than lose pretty. The Warriors had to get a win, and they got one over Washington. In the Western Conference, you just cannot afford to give away games to teams like Washington. And the Wizards, and the Warriors didn't, and they beat the Wizards. But what did you think of this contest?
Yeah, first off, I mean, look, Jordan Poole, I know there's a lot of memes and whatnot about Jordan Poole, and he's probably overpaid with that contract that Golden State gift wrapped him before shipping him off to DC. But the dude can play, man. He can get buckets with the best of them, and he's been the sole reason that the Wizards, have had some of their wins this season. He's been an excellent tank commander for that organization. I do wonder, right, if we'll ever see Jordan Poole, if we'll see another team that's out there that wants to throw together the money to bring him in. I don't know if he could be a legit starter on like a high level winning basketball team. Who knows? Or if he's just going to ride off into the sunset for the next few years with the Washington Wizards as they go through their rebuilding process. Look, I I really like what the Wizards are doing. They've amassed a lot of really interesting young talent. The big question for them, right, is who's going to step up to be like, do they have that guy? And I don't think they have that piece yet, right? They're hoping to probably get that piece from this year's draft, right? Talked about the draft last segment for Cooper Flagg a little bit with the Sixers, but they're hoping to get their piece, from this year's draft. And I do really like Alex Sarr. That's the future of the NBA big man right there. I know he's had a bit of a rough start to his rookie campaign, but he's had some moments. He's shown some flashes. I think he's starting to get his kind of NBA legs under him. And as he's part of, NBA strength and conditioning programs for the next couple of years and stuff, gets a little bit stronger, continues to refine his game. The shooting is very real, even though it's a little streaky and inconsistent at this point. I believe in his shooting stroke. I really like him. He's probably my favorite piece of the Wizards' young core at this point.
Jackson, this was a lot of fun. This was a fun day in the association. Go follow him on Twitter at JT Gatlin. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. Check out Locked On Rockets. Check out Locked On Thunder. And until next time, be good and be good to